In the name of the Holy Spirit. Someone go dance. All right. So, you guys, welcome to Panda Strong Podcast. We interview the world's top amateur pros, both. Some people in the middle, it's all good. We're here for your journey. Female strength athletes to compete and train for strength sports because it's the shit. And I'm your host, Stephanie, Fantastic the Dancer. You can find me on IG, TikTok, and YouTube by following and subscribing to my channel, where you can find awesome dance finish challenges, inappropriate twerking, and much, much more. Slide into my DM because you know where it's at. I'm just kidding. I'm taking. But I can assist you with being just fabulous with me and all this other wonderful women on the show. Like today, I have the amazing, how do you say her name? Is it Maria? As in, how do you say? And I like Maria kind of music song, or is it? Say it to me. I want to hear it with this English. She has an English accent, you guys.
yeah, it's just Maria.
This Maria, it's so pretty though. It's such a pretty name. It's so dainty, it's so nice. And then Flump, I'm very curious where that comes from. I feel like that's a solid name. I feel like maybe people and your ancestors made shoes or farmers. I don't know. No, or maybe they turned elephants all around the world and around a circus.
Flump
I don't know.
Was a nickname. Flump was a nickname. It's after a sweet that we have here in the UK. It's a marshmallow sweet, but it's twisted. Yeah, so it's a marshmallow sweet that's about an inch and a half long, and it's twisted. Or you can get big ones that come in a packet that are probably about 4 or 5 inch long. But so that it was a conversation with some friends a few years ago, and we came to the conclusion that I was a flump. I was sweet, melt in the mouth, but a bit twisted.
Oh my God. Is that like a warning for all the men out there? You're like, don't let my polite English accent deceive you. I will kill you.
it was kind of like, I'm all sweet and cute on the outside, but I'm a bit nuts.
They're like the 1950s housewife poster, where it's like secretly, in her eyes that there's something else. She's mad at her husband. She's lied. She just wants a new vacuum because she hates him so much. She just wants a vacuum better. She hates a shitty vacuum, but she's mad. She's holding it in. You guys send me some marshmallow candy. The fat kid in me really wants to have a marshmallow Monday, and I will sit there and eat it and just eat it. Just eat it. Just eat it. You know that Michael Jackson parody song? No one likes to eat like me. I want to see these marshmallows. I better get something.
I'll have to find some and show you.
I have an idea, but I'm gonna wait to the end of the show to talk to you about it. Ideas! I'm so excited. So anyway, so what's your legitimate name then? Besides Can I just call you Candy Ass going forward because that's hilarious.
My fiance would find that highly amusing, to be honest.
I'll send him a pair of underwear with your face and I'll say Candy Ass on it. Or I can send you a mug with your face and or like something lifting, maybe a selfie with your ass out, and then it could say on the back, "Smack that candy ass," and that's like a hint for what you want on Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Special gifts by Stephanie. I'm saying marriage.
So my actual last name is Krasinska.
That is very like Ukrainian German, a Kokinska, but yet you're English. I'm fully confused.
It's Polish.
Polish.
Yeah.
Apparently I have some Polish in me. I don't think it's enough to make it legit. Maybe that's where my hidden rage comes from. Not too sure. It's probably Scottish, but anyway. Polish people are
bit of the Scottish there. Yeah, definitely with the rage.
I can't. I have to really self-check myself 24 hours a day because I'll give you an example, okay? I had this neighbor who was kind of he was a drug addict. He was crazy, okay? He was little and he was crazy. He was like a poodle. He's really tiny, okay? And one time he shouted something out at the window to me, like fat ass or something. And I was like, you better calm down. You right now. You want some of me? You want some of me? And my kids are right behind me. My husband's like, calm down. I'm like, oh, let's finish it today. You got something else you got to say, bitch? I'll take you and your friend. And they came down. I was like, I'm gonna take you right now. I weigh more than both of you. Come on. And then I was like, okay, now you calm the fuck down. And then I did my yo chi, which is yoga and tai chi in my head. Caught the chi, embraced the chi, and I calmed the fuck down. And my husband's like, you need to chill. I was like, nobody to talk to me like that. I'm beautiful. I know who I am. But yeah, Scottish rage. It's watch out if you're someone who's Scottish. I know the redheads, you like them, but be careful. There's a trigger warning on the package. Play at your own risk. So anyways, today we're going to talk about strength hacks because she is a personal trainer. If you can't already tell, she's from the UK of A. She's a Masters StrongWoman. She's a mom of 3 boys. She's an empowered domestic abuse survivor. She won the war on depression with athleticism. I love the word athleticism. Athleticism. You're so aesthetic. And she teaches women who also have a candy ass and ages 25 and up. She takes them all. So tell us about how you got into support of strongman and why strongman. Let's start there.
Okay. I started in a gym, local gym to me, after a knee injury. So I had to have knee surgery. I used to kickbox and do boxing. And I completely severed my ACL, damaged various other structures inside my left knee. Had to have surgery for it. Was told I needed to build up the muscles in my leg to help the recovery. A friend of mine was training at this gym, went along with her. The owner at the gym at the time, he'd recovered himself from a very nasty motorbike accident, which tore his quad and stuff, and he got himself back on stage doing bodybuilding. And I was like, okay, so if he can do that, he can help me. Basically we started lifting as a means to recovery, and I fell in love with it. I just lifted for recovery basically for a while. Got persuaded to try a powerlifting meet, did that, didn't come anywhere special with it. It was literally just to test my own personal kind of bests and stuff. But I found the powerlifting a bit boring. The community was lovely and everything, and I met some amazing people that I still talk to now. But I found the training a bit boring. But there was a guy and a girl, I say guy and a girl, a guy and a lady, at the gym that I was training at that did strongman. And I'd become friends with them, and I'd join in with their sessions every now and again, and they kind of tried to persuade me to do it, basically, give it a go. Went to watch 2 of the lads compete at a local strongman comp, and one of the events was big, the big round hay bales, the kind of size of a car, kind of.
Yeah.
They have to flip them. And I've been around horses since I was tiny. Well, I'd say tiny. I was about 4 or 5 when I first started learning to ride. I've worked on stable yards and stuff over 15 years of my life, and I've got 2 horses of my own. So I have to move these bales every winter. We have to move these bales. So they got these bales there for this guy's comp, and I just kind of gave it a go. And I started flipping the bale, and they were all like, yeah, okay, you've got to sign up now. You've got to sign up for a comp.
Because, as a kid, I used to get in shit. I was also allergic to hay, but I used to push because I grew up in farm too, riding horses, what you're talking about. And, I was always this little she-hulk, and I'd be trying to fucking flip it and push it around. And, I was getting shit from my aunts and uncles. We just stacked that, Stephanie. I'm like, come on, I just flipped it. That's amazing. And the past, stop touching the farm equipment. I'm like, but it's fun,
Yeah.
But I've never seen some strongman. Oh, go ahead. But I'm saying I would love to see that here. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different really than having a big tire flip, I suppose. They just used what they got available.
It's harder. It's mushy and stuff, and prickly and pokey.
New.
The tire you can grip. And boom,
it's as tall as you are,
you can put your body weight into it. A hay will just poke you and stab you and give you a hay sliver. It's way fucking harder.
But because I did it. They were like, yeah, you've got to sign up for a comp now. So basically, I got persuaded into taking it a bit more seriously, and found a first timers comp like the following year, and started. So that was 2019. I did my first comp. Started training. So I started training for it in 2018, and then did the competition at the beginning of 2019. And that was it. I fell in love with the sport. It was, yeah, like the whole experience of the day. Everybody helped everybody. Had the community. That, yeah, it was just, it's something special. I've not found quite the same community and the same family feel and everything in any other sport I've done. So it was like, yeah, this is home. This is where I want to be. And then I did another comp that year in the September. So that was the April. I did another comp that year in the September with my son, with my youngest son. He'd already been signed up for it, and I wasn't originally. And I signed up like a week before the comp to do it because I'd hurt my back in the summer, and I just wanted to test the water, see how my back was, how it'd hold up, because it seemed to be recovering well and stuff. Because I'd got another comp lined up in the October, which was like the heaviest stuff I'd ever done. But we both did this comp at a gym called Grindhouse, which is a place called Burton, which won't really mean much to you, but it's not too far from us. And we both came second in our categories, so that was quite special. First, to do the comp with my son, and for us to both to place was cool. And just kind of again cemented the love and enjoyment for it. I got to pull a 9-ton truck, and then I went and competed at a competition called Queen of the North, which was an all-female comp, which was run by Rhiannon Lovelace and Luke Davies at Chaos in Preston.
Yep.
Which I'm sure anybody that knows strength sports knows who Rhiannon is.
I always like roast her on the show because she's like she's the type of girl where if you were in high school and you shit talked her, especially, I don't know if she grew up in the hood, I don't know anything about her other than strongman, okay? But she would be the one that would just throw you a fucking just a one right hook and boom, you'd be down. Some guy would be like, shut up, and she'd be like, boom, and he'd be down. She's like the little feisty fucker that you don't mess with.
She is tiny.
But yeah, she's crazy tiny. Like my favorite episode was like when she was going back to back with Eddie Hall in the gym and just doing shit like that, and he's just flabbergasted and she's just giggling and just she's so calm about it. She's like, oh, drops it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's ace. Yeah, they ran the comp, and it was the hardest comp I'd done at that time. I was hoping to come middle of the pack somewhere, and I came fourth by half a point. Like I was half a point behind third. I lifted stuff that I never thought I'd lift, and they had the hardest. Bearing in mind, I'd already done a 9-ton truck pull. They had the hardest Land Rover to pull that you could ever imagine. For some reason, that thing was a bitch. It would not move for some people couldn't budget. Others, we could only get halfway up the course.
It's all in the wheels. It's all in the tire grid, I'm telling you. You know what I mean?
It was, it is definitely. Yeah, the wheel, the grip on the tires and the surface of the floor did not work well together, put it that way.
I just thought of another t-shirt name. I'm listening to you. I'm writing it down. Go ahead.
Basically, I was over the moon to come fourth, which was way better than I hoped to do. But at the end of the comp, Rhea actually came and spoke to me and offered to coach me. She said she wanted to be my coach. She said she'd seen something in me, and loved the fact that I didn't give up, that I'd fought all the way. And she wanted to be my coach, and I was like, okay, I don't care where I place. This is the amazing thing today. This is so that was October 2019, and Ree's been my coach since November that year. So yeah, I joined Team Chaos. I then did my first ever Inters competition in the February on my 39th birthday. And then most of last year was a write-off. thanks to COVID and stuff, a lot of comps just didn't happen. But I competed in a completely deadlift competition in the summer, which was called Day of the Deadlift. Now, deadlift is probably my favorite lift, to be fair. So I was like, yeah, I'm all over that. I want to do this one. It was basically
every word you say makes it better by accident. You're like category, but you're like category, and then fair. Everything sounds better. It sounds so delightful. I want to live in your land of delightfulness and joy and happiness. Continue.
Oh, trust me, you could go to certain places and hear certain accents you wouldn't think were delightful.
I watch a lot of BBC network shows, so yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I did that completely deadlift comp. So there was like silver dollar deadlift. Ree actually set the world record for the silver dollar deadlift on that day. There were other world records set that day. I didn't set any world records, but I did win my category. So that was my first ever first place. So I was really pleased with that. I was the only lady in my category to lift. We did a car deadlift. I was the only one that managed to complete the car deadlift. I was the only one that we did a frame deadlift, but the weight went up each rep. And I was the only one to get to, I think it was 200 kilos. So I was the only one to do that one, which meant I won. Which meant I won my category. So that was my first ever first place and proper trophy. So, and it was actually a really cool trophy. It was actually a skull. So that lives on a shelf at home now. That's really cool. And that summer I also did the online qualifier for OSG, for World's Strongest Woman. And when we got the emails in the September, I'd qualified, which is why I'm off to Florida next week. In fact, I fly a week today to go and take part in that. Did another couple of comps towards the end of the year, nothing major really, just getting back, doing something, having some fun. Then this year has been a big year. I did, just think the right order. June, I did, so like I know in America and stuff, they have different federations for the strongman. Well, here in the UK, we kind of have that. It doesn't work in quite the same way. There's one side of the sport that's not drug tested or anything, so anybody competes. And they have in England, they have a regionals, they have so like Northerns, Southerns, Midlands, and they have an England's and a Britain's, and that can earn you a place at Worlds and stuff from there. But there's also a drug tested federation in the UK, which is called the BNSF. So I did their competitions this year as a Masters athlete because I've turned 40. So I did England's and came joint first. I then qualified me for Britain's, where I won, which then qualified me for Europe's, which was in Wales, where I came third, and I'm qualified for their Worlds, which is in Finland in December. So this year's been a bit of a how do I put it, roller coaster. It was very unexpected. So yeah, it was kind of one thing after another, and it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going here now. I also got to compete at the first Fit Expo that was here. So I did a log and deadlift, hit some PBs, had the third biggest female total for the comp. And then I think probably one of my highlights of the year was doing the Arnold's, the first UK Arnold's. Again, it was a log and deadlift. It was my first time ever lifting a wooden log.
Yeah, I saw your photos. You look pretty good.
The photos were amazing.
Yes, I know.
And the deadlift was an axle bar deadlift with a big like metal wheels.
I love the metal wheels, man. It's the shit. Like especially horses and wagons. Cool. Yeah. Like anything that's like vintage or farmers looking or weird looking is really cool. Totally. Yeah, like find something weird for me to lift. The weirder the better.
Yeah.
Like, it looks cool.
It looks cool. But yeah, that was like, it was something massive for us, and not just for those of us competing, it was massive for the female side of the sport, because we got to lift in front of 2,000 people. Like, we don't get crowds like that.
Yeah.
There was 2,000 people, and they were all cheering for us and shouting for us. Like, I got sent a video from somebody who was in the crowd, and like when we were up on stage, we kind of, you could see the crowd, but you weren't really aware. It didn't really sink in. You kind of didn't see it. But then when I got sent this video, it made me cry. It made me emotional, because there were literally people all around this guy that was videoing that were shouting for me as I was lifting. I was like, I don't know who you are. Like, normally we're at a comp, there's like 20 people, and they're like all people associated with like who's competing and stuff. These were like, you know, hundreds of complete strangers. And so it was like, we got to kind of prove that we can entertain and we can put on a show, and we're worth coming to watch.
Totally. Yep.
Which is a big battle for the female side of the sport, and so it was kind of an honor to be one of the first people involved with that in the UK, which, you know, we're hoping becomes a big thing like from next year onwards. So that was amazing.
Well, it's I don't know, like, that's obviously a hot topic right now, but I kind of feel like it's very duh for me, because it's like this whole myth that, you know, men don't watch women's sports or never have or whatever is just like not true. It's because that they weren't supported in the same way, right? I don't want to get into too much now, because other people have talked about it, but it's like, you know, you spend on, how much do you spend on NFL cheerleaders, right? Well, if you, like, I'm not saying that you need that at a female sport. I'm saying, for example, like, there's all these side things that go around in terms of like promotional marketing for a male sport of any kind. And if you apply those same marketing logistics to females, how the hell would you not have success? It's lazy marketing. Like Low, right? Like wrestling, the female wrestlers in the 90s, they're successful. They were great. That because this is fucking raw, natural. You know what I mean? And it was, you made them into characters. I'm not saying you have to make women into characters. I'm just saying you make it entertaining, and people, you show people stories, people will show up.
Yeah, do with like and for the men. Do the same thing, and you will draw the crowds.
Yeah,
it's like, that was the other thing with it at the Arnold. We had our own day. Friday was just the women. There were no men compete, so people weren't coming to watch both and stayed to watch the women. They came to see us.
Exactly.
They were there and they watched us. The men was on the next day, so we had our own day. You know, we weren't the slideshow. We weren't a little thing in the corner. We had our own day. We had our own stage. And it kind of proved that we can do that. We can put on a show. We can entertain. We can do this shit. You know, and people actually like watching it.
So it's like, here's a perfect example. So when I started doing Highland Games, I was at a game, and there was a bunch of like people who were coming, because I'm pretty well known in my city. Like, I've been a public figure, I've done community projects, I'm an entertainer too. Wait, we're having this podcast, right? So people know me, right? Everyone gets kind of, you're a trainer, fitness leader, you get a following. And it's like, there was more women coming in sports than you guys, but there was more women at the time coming in than men where I am. And the guys who've been doing it for like, 7 years were all like kind of pissy and offended, and they make comments while I was competing, right, to each other. I can fucking hear you guys, and they were like, I don't understand, why is there all these people here? It's like, well, I don't know. It's because I shared shit on social media. I don't know, maybe because those girls throwing heavy shit in skirts is fucking good. And my skirt's just halfway down my ass, and I have a big candy ass. I don't know. Like, you can't do that.
If you don't make a fuss about it yourself, you can't complain. When somebody else does it, they get the result that you know.
Successful all of a sudden. It's because people are putting the word out there, and they're hauling ass. That's how they made the strongman competition here finally get some, leverage, making it welcome for athletes traveling. There's better prizes, interviewing athletes for TV that helps their career, the newspaper, all this stuff. Like, you got to spend money to make money. And if you're not going to invest in your athletes, then you're not going to have a turnout. Stop blaming the fucking athletes. It's stupid. Yeah. Regardless of sex, your gender, it's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, it's stupid. And it's like same with this podcast, right? Because like, when I first started, like, I'm not a pro athlete yet. Like, I had just had a baby, and number 2 was a surprise. I was training for nationals. I was like, oh, but like, I still want to be involved in sport. And I was like, how can I still be involved? Physically, I can't be involved, right? Like lifting, because I just had a baby. And
Yeah.
I was like, it was something that I wanted to do from the moment I started entering the sports, because I saw like there was a need for female promotion and stuff like that. But then I was like, well, I'm busy with all these other things. But as soon as you have a baby, you're like, well, and I'd be like rocking my baby, and I'm not joking, he would only sleep in the baby chair. His neck was crooked for a while because he wouldn't sleep anywhere else. So he'd be on my lap, and I'd be rocking him while I'm fucking writing questions and editing the interview and recruiting athletes. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, all you have to do is put effort in. I figured out how to have a podcast. I figured out how to have an online store so I could support athletes and promote athletes, So it's like, and I'm not a techie, right? So my point is, you put effort in, it will be received to all the promoters out there, make it successful. So I kind of want to change the subject, that's okay, and kind of go into the deep into dark. So I know it's about to get real, you guys. You better get some pillows and some whiskey. You may need it. So I know prior you had the depression, you battled with the depression, and like the domestic abuse, assuming that they're interlinked, because, obviously when you're in a shitty, toxic relationship, they go hand in hand. But I want to know how that all played out in timing with the strongman, like, did that all end and then he went boom into strongman? Like, how did that, or personal trainer, like, what was the order of events and what was the catalyst change?
I was in my abusive marriage we were together for about 15 years.
Wow,
we were married
that's a long time.
Yeah, we were married for 11, 3 children.
Wow.
Who are now all adults. So I was first diagnosed with depression after my youngest was born, but the doctor did say that if I'd have come to her before he was born, she'd have diagnosed me then too. So it wasn't postnatal depression, it was, and quite probably a product of the situation I was in. I finally got out of the marriage in 2011. Literally a month after, like, we split up, I had a car accident that nearly killed me.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, there was that into the plot twist there. I didn't know this.
It was a pretty nasty accident. I'm very, very lucky to be here. A metal pole went through my car. It hit basically hit the front of the car, hit the engine block, came up through my windscreen, and took the headrest off my seat. Fortunately, I'd already been thrown sideways, so I didn't get hit by the pole. Still have my head. But in the impact, I smacked my face. So they thought at one point I'd broken my cheekbone, but I hadn't. Fortunately, it was just really badly bruised. I smashed my collarbone, so I've got a big metal plate on my collarbone.
That's a benefit for shouldering Atlas down.
No, it's really not, because the metal is directly under the skin.
Oh, okay. Well, all cartoons
on top of the bone. So anything like sometimes some of the logs and axles I've actually ground it before now because the metal sticks out. Yeah, it's not brilliant, to be honest. And I have nerve damage from my shoulder down to my thumb in my left arm. It's a lot better now than it was. At one point my bicep didn't work, but it does now. But my shoulder's temperamental, shall we say, and my left side is always going to be weaker.
Just randomly dropping cups. It's not from the workout, okay? It's my damn arm.
Yeah. I mean, everybody like,
Mom, you're not supposed to spill. I spill a lot of shit, like my protein shake all the time, because I'm just tired after a workout, and I spill it, and I'm like, damn it! I can clean it up, I have to clean juice all the time. I'm a mom. Dog. Anyways, I can relate.
So it's that obviously presented its own challenges and stuff. So it literally meant I was single with 3 children, recovering from an accident that almost killed me, all like within a month. And that took some recovering from in a lot of senses. I didn't recover very well mentally to start with. I was kind of holding things together, but kind of by a thread. Made quite a few bad decisions, actually ended up in another abusive relationship, although fortunately I got out of it a lot quicker. And that was probably the turning point. Getting out of that second abusive relationship was probably the turning point, to be honest. It was almost like every mistake I made, I at least learned from each mistake I made, and kind of got a little bit closer to getting me back. And I started, a friend of mine co-owns a boxing gym. So I was single again, obviously still got my 3 kids. I started a new job. So I'd moved away, because I'd worked with horses for years, and I'd moved away from working with horses into an office job because my youngest had started secondary school. I was like, great, I don't need to do the school run anymore. So, you know, I can do a 9 to 5 with paid holidays, because I'd been self-employed for years and stuff. You know, I can have paid holidays, and I can have proper weekends off, and all. And so I worked in sales in an office, but I was still in recovery, basically. But my friend had got this boxing gym, and it was originally trying to get my eldest to go. And he said to me the one day, he said, why don't you, I got really frustrated about something, I can't remember what it was. And he was kind of like, why don't you come along? Like come. And I kind of went, nah, it's not my kind of thing. It's not for me. But then it kind of sat there in my head. And then a few weeks later, I kind of went, oh, can I come? And he's like, yeah, come along Monday nights. We do a ladies' class. And so I started doing that, and I really enjoyed, because I'd always been active. I'd always done something at school and stuff. I'd been on the athletics team. I'd done running. Obviously, I'd ridden horses on and off for years. So I'd always been active. I'd always done something. And then for a good while, I hadn't really, apart from the horses, I hadn't done anything else, and I hadn't done anything for me. Like, I went through the phase when I first was single and stuff again, of going out and, you know, going drinking and things like that. But I hadn't done anything kind of, for want of a better way, productive or healthy for me.
So
that
I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what you're saying.
That bought something for me in that sense, and so I enjoyed it. And we did a little bit of weights with that, with the boxing training and stuff, and enjoyed the boxing training. And I started to feel better and more me, but my self-confidence was still very shaky. It was quite superficial. It was more about what I looked like rather than, you know, what I was doing and stuff. And I guess I still needed reassurance from outside, if you know what I mean, rather than it being an inner self-confidence. Can you hear me still?
Yes, I just hear a sound behind my head, but there's no one behind me. And I don't know if it's like coming through my window, the sound funnel, but it sounds like people having a conversation at a cafe. And I bet you it's my tablet or one of my devices.
It's doing something.
Yeah, I was like, what's that sound? I'm like, hallucinating? What's going on? You know, you're in deep REM meditation listening to someone when you hear some sound through your microphone. I don't know, must be my neighbor. It sounds crazy. My window's closed. I don't know. I got a really sharp ear. It's not good though, because I'm a sleep apnea, because I hear every little sound. Like I hear a squirrel in the bush. I'm like, yo, someone in my yard breaking into my garage trying to steal my waste. I gotta go beat them up.
I have to sleep with earplugs in, because I'm a real, since having kids, I'm a really light sleeper.
Me too. That's what I'm saying. Everything and anything.
Any sound.
I'm like, what? Are the kids home? Crap, I gotta hide. But so like, sorry if you were trying to finish sentence, but while I was listening to you, I was thinking about a couple of things. So like, when it comes to the key points you mentioned there of like, there was choices. There was, like you said, you made some bad choices. We definitely made some good choices. Like for me, when I entered into strongman, like when I had my first son, I was in like, you know, I was self-employed for a long time before I had kids, and got screwed over and bad business deals and different things that went down. You learn a lot though. Fuck, you learn a lot from that shit. I mean, I don't regret it now, but oh my God, was it like the most horrible hell. I lost my shirt, my pants, everything, right? Like lost everything. But like you can only go up, right? And it's scary as fuck, but you have to make some serious decisions about yourself. That means for me, it meant cutting off family. For me, it meant removing all friends everything familiar. I stopped dancing, like obviously started training for strength, rehabilitating my body, rehabilitating my finances, just making significant healthy risks. I went back to school, finished my education online, obviously, opened up, reopened business, did all these different things. But it's like, I had friends and people that came along my path at that time, whether it was Dick is always distracting. Even though I was in a relationship, old Dick coming back, I'm like, I'm with someone. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm sure. Okay. I no longer think you're cute. I have matured. And just old temptations and things like that, you fall into as a trap before. And then I met a lot of mom friends who were amazing and we clicked and were really close, but you know what? A lot of them were naturally just really skinny. So they just didn't feel a need to work out. Like I worked out 20 times more than them, but they're like, I'm skinny, so I'm just going to eat it down. I don't need to go work out. And they would eat this shit in front of me. I'm like, I fucking hate you. But anyways, they'd want to go to that bar and drink. And this would be late. They had kids my age and they'd leave them with their husbands and they'd go. And some of them were DJs and different things. Stuff that I really love. And, in the 3 years of training for StrongMan, like I said, before my second baby. So I'm kind of restarting the process again. But, I had to change the way I talked, the way I thought, the way I moved, just everything way I interacted in my life, in terms of self-respect, right? I don't chase people. I don't chase things. I know my worth. And being okay with being lonely, being okay with, having that alone time to grow into something amazing. And that's really tough, because when you're alone with yourself for that much time, I had a facade, even from my husband first met me, I was playing a role, and I had to get to know who I really was and shave all that bullshit fat, right? Mental, physical, whatever, spiritual, and figure out who I was, and move forward. And it was very, very, very drastic. It was very, very painful. And it was I can relate what you're saying with it wasn't postpartum depression. I definitely had depression before, but I'd always been running from it, right? And then I had kids and I couldn't run away from it, right? When you're sitting there nursing your child, or you're sitting there watching cartoons with them that you don't like, then all of a sudden you're in your head, and you get in your head a lot, and you have to figure out how to sort through those thoughts and sort your shit. And no one can do it but you. So I'm curious, you know what I mean? So I'm curious about with the timing and all of that, obviously said you left the relationship, and then you slowly, start making better choices. At what point within that was the personal trainer thing came in? How did that part work? How were you where were you in the process of this, mentally, that you were making some big ass moves? Do you know what I mean? Was it a really conscious, I'm going to write some goals down on a collage, and make a goal sheet, or how'd that go down?
No. So, it definitely wasn't a conscious decision. Since my car accident, it kind of, when you've come out of something that you shouldn't have come out of, it kind of gives you a bit of a new perspective.
Yeah.
And I've very much since then, whether it's not always been a good idea, but I've gone quite a bit down the road of, if an opportunity presents itself to me, I take it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not necessarily sure where it's going to lead or what's going to happen, and sometimes it doesn't go anywhere.
Yes woman.
Yeah, it's why the fuck not? Let's do it. So I'd never thought about being a personal trainer. I mean, I used to teach people to ride horses. I'm a qualified riding instructor, so I've taught people before. I've done youth work, and stuff. And I do to a lot of people, I'd say I'm not a people person, but I'm a selective people person, if that makes sense.
Oh, I understand that very wholeheartedly, deep in my soul.
Animals over people, but the right people, all good. But I like helping people. I like helping people, and because I'd been through the journey that I'd been through myself, and the weights showed me again, I think is the best way to put it. When I fell in love with lifting, it became not about what I looked like anymore. It was about what I could do, and if I could do that, what else could I do? So it kind of snowballed. Obviously I'd done a couple of powerlifting comps. I'd done my first strongman comp, and basically the owner of the gym that I was working at, he'd advertised for somebody to be front of house and stuff, and I was looking for a way out of the job I was in at the time. It was,
Mhm.
you know, I was working outside, working on stable yards. It's cold in the winter here in the UK. It's horrible. It's wet. And
I'm from Winterpeg, so I understand. -40, sometimes more than -45. If you had balls before the winter,
yeah,
they're officially frozen off in the snow somewhere.
yeah, you know,
That's
it's
about someone.
most of the girls that I was working with were like young enough to be my daughters. I was just like, I'm too old for this shit anymore. So I was already looking for a way out.
Yeah.
And I'd done a couple of other things. I'd learned to drive a forklift truck, and tried working in warehouses, but it was all agency stuff, so nothing reliable. So that was no good with, like, you know, kids to support and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he'd advertised this front of house, and I kind of ummed and ahed about it, and he hadn't found anybody yet. And I kind of ended up speaking to him, and a couple of people had suggested it to me. And I was like, okay. So I started there just as front of house to start with. So, like, you know, kind of sat on the desk, and, you know, helping clean and stuff. And then he started trying to get me to help with the classes, so like boot camp type classes. Okay, yeah. And he basically talked me into doing my PT qualification, um, and got me PTing there. And I was like, oh, yeah, why not? Like, let's give it a go. And
I'm just
the more I did it,
envisioning
the more
you
I loved
like
it.
pushing a hay bale through your first fucking class through this big door, and like there's hay on the floor as it's rolling in, and you're like, "Hi, class. Today you're going to learn strongman, the proper form way. I teach horses, and now I teach you. I teach horses to run around the hay bale. I teach you to push the hay bale." And everyone's like, "That was probably similar to your first class."
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, you know, so he pushed me out of my comfort zone, because I'll be honest, group classes aren't really my thing, but he kind of pushed
Really,
me.
I'm the opposite. I love that shit. I will roast everyone in that class. Like if it's some old lady and she's got, like, you know, pantyhose on and a unitard and she looks like an 80s 90s rubber girl, I'll like walk up to her and like I'll be like do 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 do, you know, and I'd be like like all those like 90s songs, maniac, maniac, like I'll fucking roast them all. Like I love that shit. It is entertaining as fuck. And then there's always the one person who's like, and I like those people because they always make me realize how fit my chunky ass is. So I appreciate those folks. And then personal trainer, I'm like, Marv, they're like, stop yelling at me. I'm like, I love you. But yes, it's very again. They're like, are you trying to kill me? I'm like, I don't know. You're not bleeding yet. You're fine. Do it again.
You're not dead yet. You can do it.
One more.
Yeah, I usually get that. I get my clients usually give me that face. Like, I'll get another plate to put on the bar, and they just look at me, and I'm like, you're fine.
You're not quivering. You're not peeing. You're not pooping. Your legs aren't quivering.
Exactly.
Listen, bitch, I pushed out a baby, and there was lots of quivering and peeing and pooping. So until that happens, I'm adding more weight.
Yeah, you're all good.
That's how it goes.
Like that.
On the topic of trainers and having access to trainers, you guys check out, if you're new to the show, it's your first time listening in, join our Facebook groups, Team Panda Strong, for access to our weekly fitness, food recipes, and dance fitness challenges for beginners to intermediate athletes. Obviously, our focus is strength training, but because I'm a dancer, there's lots of shaking asses and challenges for you. And if enough people join the group, I will do them in unitards. I know there's not a lot of men in the group, so I feel confident that you guys can stomach that. Anyways, so, and if you want just strength related information, I have a Facebook group called Join Strong Women of Canada. And basically, you know, it's like a focus on just strength training and barbells. So check that out. Log in. Otherwise, loser. Just kidding. I've always wanted to use that Jim Carrey expression, always. So on the topic of personal training and strength and building people's bodies up and their minds at the same time, what are some things that you find are the hardest part about training people? Not throwing shade or dishing them, but in the sense of, like, I'm sure you've seen commonalities in athletes who are of a certain age. Like if we talk about Masters and women in the 50s, this is a new up and rising category of women who are coming in. A lot of these women have had children, so their body's banged up. I mean, legit. I mean, babies break you. They got a big hit. The whole things happen. So, what are some of the challenges that you often face with training athletes in that category, and how are some ways that you overcome that with them?
So
Some hacks.
a lot of the time, a woman will come and she wants to look better, or she wants to look like she did before she had her babies, or when she was 20 years younger, or
Yeah.
whatever kind of, at the end of the day, unrealistic expectation. And obviously I've been there, like, you know, when I first started training and stuff, when I first started boxing, it was more about what I looked like than what I could do, and that change slowly happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's usually the biggest hurdle, is to get to change their mindset about what they're doing and why they're doing it. You know, for some people it never clicks and they're constantly chasing that unattainable goal, and it's kind of sad because then they miss out on all the fun stuff in between,
Totally.
on what they could actually be doing. You know, but usually it works. Like, usually within a few sessions you kind of get them to realize that this unattainable thing that they were chasing is well, one, isn't easy to achieve, and two, isn't really what they actually want. What they actually want is just to be happy in themselves. Usually they need to get their confidence back, you know, and not be so hard on themselves, and actually see what they're capable of. Like, a lot of them, especially mums, we become mum and not really anything else, and we kind of forget about having goals and things to achieve and stuff, and that we can do things for us.
Totally.
So it kind of gives them something that's theirs and something for them, and then they, you know, they kind of tend to run with it then, and then it becomes much easier. But yeah, the first couple of weeks is usually the hardest, is getting them over that kind of hurdle of, why are you actually doing this? Why do you want to do this? And what do you actually want to get out of it? And so some of them, like, you know, when you ask them to start with, they can't really answer you. But then they start to, and they, again, they follow. Like, I mean, I've not encountered anybody yet that started lifting and not fallen in love with it.
Yeah, totally. And if they haven't, that's because they literally quit before they even figured it out. Like, honestly, like, you have to give it time. Barbell training, there is the complexity to it of, like, actually getting proper form, and a lot of that, you have to relax your mind and you have to focus, and that means shutting out all this shit in your head that's telling you you suck or you're stressed or worse. You have to learn how to be mentally present. That was the hardest part for me, because, like you said, as a mom, I had no choice. My husband, you know, he is self-employed. He leaves early for the work in the morning. There's no fucking way I'm gonna be like Mark Wahlberg and wake up at 4 a.m. I'm a crazy. Not gonna happen. And if it does, I'm going to bed at 5 p.m. So not gonna work. So
I have one of my clients that she trains. She has her sessions at 7 a.m. and that's the earliest I do a session. She has her sessions at 7 a.m. before she goes to work, but she's in bed by 9 usually. So it's like,
what I'm trying to say. Like, I used to work before I kids, even when I was pregnant, work, you know, I'd work out at 5, 6 a.m. at the gym. Like, as soon as it opened, I was the first one outside the door, locked in the winter, and I'd like wait out there. But like, my husband's work schedule is also really like unpredictable. Like, he'll leave at different times. Sometimes he does leave at 4:30 in the morning. So it's like, and then my kid never goes to sleep at a regular scheduled time, no matter what the fuck I do. So you have to be realistic. I gave up on that shit. I was like, fuck. And so I pre-workout and I'd be like, and then I'd ride my bike to the gym to try to get some flow, and then like blood brain wake up, and then I'd get there and I'd still be like, But once I was lifting logs and lifting things, and it got really exciting. I mean, you know, I'd hurt myself a lot because I was tired, and mentally I didn't know how to be present in the same way, because dance is different. You're mentally present, but I don't know how to describe it. It very much goes into the creative side of your brain. And so it's almost like kind of floating on air, like a hot air balloon. It gives you a different high. Like, if I was describing it as a drug, I don't do drugs, I wouldn't know, but it's almost psychedelic in the sense of it's creative. It's like theater, it's art, and you don't need to mentally, you do to an extent. I think 30% mental, the rest is like left brain. The rest is creative, and it's just your body just kind of follows the brain. It's conscious in certain ways. But with barbell, you have to be all like left brain focused into it. And that was hard for me, because I'm telling you, I'll play my good playlist and I'll be like twerking, and then I'd be like, oh shit, I've been here for 3 hours. I should probably go home, you know? So that was the hardest part, was like focus, efficiency, technique. And then it was like understanding how to train in terms of volumes, reps, because I didn't have a coach. It was always alone in the gym. Maybe there's the odd dude there, but I was like 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes I biked home from the gym at like 1:30 in the morning. I was like, no one's going to try to rate me because I'm sick. So it's fine. And I'm on a bike. I'm pretty sure I can run away, but I'll get tired, but it's dark. I'll hide behind the house. I'll live. It's all good. This is how I solve problems in a very logical state. I don't know how good it is. But, you know, on the topic of, and kind of go back to like the domestic abuse and how that changes, it's like women, like you said, our identity is being a mom, and it's really hard to grapple with like how your mind changes too after having kids. It's not the same, and women have to understand that like it comes to it's a rebirth, it's a spiritual awakening, right? And you become like kind of like your kid who was growing inside you. So you have to give all those different connections time to develop and grow and get into it. So it's like 12-week boot camp shreds. Sometimes it's good motivation. It gets women in, they stay in. But if that's not speaking to you, find a way to help it speak to you, but just don't give a fuck up. Like if you gain like maybe you get 50 pounds stronger overall in a year, that's fine. Like at least you kept going at it, and think about all the positive things that came from that, and don't give up because you're not like, I'm not Rihanna Lovelace. Like, come on, come on.
Yeah, also, I mean, with some people it is about keeping their goals realistic in that sense as well. It's like, everybody it's very easy, and I see it quite a lot in our sport, to be fair. People get caught up in the comparison game. It's like you see certain people that like are amazing at one particular thing or whatever, and then you compare yourself to them all the time. And I've seen a few girls get really bogged down in that, and it is very true. The saying "comparison is the thief of joy" is so true. You go around comparing yourself. You are not them. Your journey is not their journey. You're good at your own things, and you will get to where you want to in your time. It's as much as we compete, it's not a competition in that kind of sense. There's no it has to be a certain way. It's your journey. You've got to do it your way, and accept that all the things in your life are going to affect it for you different from anybody else.
What I learned from doing this the first time and then having a baby was, I mean, it's not the same as a car crash, and I don't want to attach that to the same thing because it's obviously individual stories. But, after having my first son, paralyzed, I still have permanent paralysis in a lot of areas of my body. Like I still have to lift my leg when I get into a car, and it's very muscle specific from the epidural. But because I was calling all my hands and knees, literally, and dealing with that chronic pain, and like the sciatic nerve pain was unbelievable. Like there was times I would just sit there and cry, and I couldn't move for hours. And this is after having my first. But it's like I became toxic with my workout again. So I was training for strength, and it was all good. But then I started getting kind of ridiculous, where I was fighting with my husband. Not that he wasn't encouraging with me, but I get so stressed and anxious about what I was eating and how much time I was in the gym and how many times I got there, and I'd be like, you're ruining it for me, and I didn't do as well as at the competitions, and I would shit on myself, which is stupid because I was actually still progressing. And that's what I've learned is progression. Like that is my life lesson. Is like, you're moving forward, progression is progression. And I'm just like, I started doing that again. It's because, when you're a high achiever, ambitious, the perfectionism is going to creep in. And what I've learned is perfectionism not only stops you from pursuing your dreams and taking risks, but it slows that process down and halts it and causes problems for you and everyone in your life, because you don't understand how it affects your mood. It's not a positive thing. So it's like, have goals, be realistic, be flexible, be adaptable. Do not feel like shit when things don't happen. Just don't make excuses. Like show up, give your best. And sometimes what people think, the problem is that people assume the best is perfection, because they're like, well, I could have done that, and I could just, like, if you're sick as a dog and you have lung infection, and you being a single mom time, right? You got to raise 3 kids. Can you skip workouts for a week so you can take care of your kids and recover? Yes, you fucking can. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like we like talk about masters athletes, women who've always had to focus, like, like if they had kids, right? Or they still do, because 40 is like, to me, I don't know. My family, like my dad, my uncle, for example, he's like a dad to me. He like rides like 20K a day on his bike. He'll be talking to me on his bike as he's climbing up and down mountains, and his voice does not change. And he's 71. So for me, 40 just seems really young. Like when I was a kid, I thought that was like, oh, you know, because Home Improvement, all the 90s shows, all the women at that age looked like fucking old with their perms and shit. Like I always make fun of my mom with perms, which is fucking hilarious. I'm gonna show a picture here. It's hilarious. But you know what I mean? That like they struggle with that. That's like going into it. So what are like some tips or hacks you have for like female masters athletes, obviously going into strongman, who, you know, they think the time commitment is too much, the sport is too hard, like they're doing the comparison thing we talked about earlier. Maybe they have like the shittiest self-esteem because they came out of a domestic like abuse. Like my mom, she still talks like, she's not with my stepdad anymore, but she still talks like a domestic abuse survivor. She has not fully healed because she still to this day doesn't do things. She goes to safety nets of a job, and she like, oh, I can't, I'm not skinny enough, or I can't, I'm too like I'm too bruised, or oh, I'm not good enough to, you know, I don't bother anymore because that's her journey, and I can't repeat myself. It's toxic, it's unhealthy for my mental space. But you know, there's someone who really struggle, even when they're free, right? To just give themselves space, to not, I don't know, like reach, I don't know, be all these roles that women were taught to be. I don't know how to describe it. You know what I'm trying to say.
I think the guilt hits hard for a lot of people. Like mom guilt is a real thing. Like when you're giving time, and I try to get across to a lot of my clients in that you've got to do something for you. You've got to be happy for you to be able to look after everybody else. You can't give your best. If your main role in life is to be a mom and look after your children, that's brilliant, that's fine, but you can't even do that at your best if you're not. It's that you can't fill from an empty cup. So you need to do something for you. You need to do something that makes you feel good, so that you can then give your best to everybody else. You know, so that's always like getting over the mum, because they feel bad that they're doing something that's for them. They feel it's selfish, and it's like, well, it's not. I mean, it is, but it's not, because at the end of the day, if it's good for you, it's good for everybody else too.
But too, like my kid, like I walk all day with pushing my stroller because I on by choice, and I, you know, and every walk it slowly adds up to 10K minimum, unless like, you know, kids aren't digging it, or it's like raining or snowing, and then it's like I still try to get in a minimum 5K. But my point is like my kid rides his bike everywhere. He loves it. I have been so physical with him since he was a kid. Like every day I take him off to school. Like today's teacher was like, yeah, so he climbs like the highest things and jumps off with Nell Pierre. I was just amazed by him, you know, like all of their kids are like falling and then crying, and my kid's like, woo! And I was telling him, like, dude, there's no like parachute attached to your back. You should probably try to work on, you know, have a landing there, build it with leaves. I don't know, something you could fall on. But like, you know, it's very hard for people to get, like you said, past that mental block of, like, you worry that if you pursue these things that you will lose your pants, right? Like that your kids will fall, everything will fall to shit. And that's a really serious fear. And like, you know, I had to structure the shit on my day so that I could be able to get my meals in, and work out, because after having my first kid, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It makes me resentful and angry. And that's not who I am. I'm a happy, fun person. And that kind of drove me into postpartum depression, but it wasn't right after. I would say it was like, you know, 2 years in, because I was like, this is not what I want to be. And so it's not, don't feel shit about it. It's like, you have to, my kid loves strongman now. He likes to bench press. He loves to do all this stuff, and he cooks, bakes. So like I just get him involved with everything, and it's not a complaint, or, you know, if anything, he gets bored because he's so used to just kind of being on the go with me, and his dad will just be like, get home and, you know, lie on the couch. He's like, get up, Dad, round 2, mommy's having a snack, you know. And like, but I worked all day. I'm like, I worked all day too, bitch. Get up. But that's because, like, no, but I mean, like, he's skinnier than me, but, you know, he's 10 years older than me, and I think a lot of that has effect on once we had kids, he just stopped being super physically active. And I mean, his job is labor, but it's not heavy labor, hard labor. So, you age as you neglect your body and you neglect your mind, whether it's reading, learning something new, taking on something. So anything that's positive that grows you, muscle, body, brain, whatever, is a positive thing,
Definitely use it or lose it. I'm a firm believer in, you don't, I mean, obviously we all age, but you don't get old. Okay, you don't stop doing things because you get old. You get old because you stop doing things.
Yes. So here is the key question, Mrs. Car Crash Survivor. It's either that or other nicknames like Candy Ass. You pick. So like you had to recover from a car crash, right? The shoulder and all this stuff, but you're doing heavy weights with strong men. So I'm sure as a personal trainer, you've worked with athletes who, have issues with hips or knees or shoulders, that kind of stuff. Because like holding and hauling children around really fucks with your back. Like every day when I work out, I just lie on a foam and I let myself push. I'm like, and I literally my whole workout.
Carrying kids around, you tend to find you're quite lopsided because they're always stuck on one hip.
Yeah. One boob becomes bigger than the other, then one foot.
Oh God, yeah.
She's crooked. But I mean, like I'm gonna sound like an asshole. I'm not gonna say who, but there's a celebrity on one of those TV shows. She wants to have kids. She's doing IVF. And the thing is like, she does not understand. Like, I'm a heavy person. I'm over 300 pounds. But, like, mom job is real. Lifting kids is hard. They're heavy. It's a fucking workout. All day workout. You sweat. Cleaning the house and taking care of kids, especially being a stay-at-home mom, is a lot of work. So it's like, yeah. So, like, that's what I'm trying to say is, like, you have to prepare yourself for that battle, right? That mental, physical battle. And by neglecting your body, you're making it harder on yourself as a mom, If you are, kids are heavy. I don't know.
I think with a lot of my ladies, though, I try and get across the whole, you can't do everything. It's like something has to give. Like, don't try and be perfect with everything. Like, I'll hold my hands up. I hate housework. So if anything's going to give, it's the housework. I'm going to get my workout in. Everybody's fed. Everybody's got clean clothes.
Yeah.
But the Hoover might not have moved for 3 days. So
same. That's why I don't invite people over on certain days, because I'm like, I was working out and doing meal prep. So,
people have these such ridiculous expectations of being able to do everything and everything being perfect. It's like, that's not real life.
Yeah, but also
like, cut yourself some slack.
What also is unrealistic, what people don't understand, is for thousands of years people have done communal living. That means that their house
everybody helping with stuff.
Everybody was helping, taking care of a house. And if you had kids, there was other moms around, so you were never responsible, whether you're single, have kids, whatever. You were never responsible for maintaining a house, working a 40 to 70 hour work week, and then all this other shit. It's unrealistic. It's stupid. So any asshole as a mom who comes into your house and you work and you raise your kids and it's like, oh, well, it's not really feng shui. Fuck you and your feng shui. Get the fuck out of my house and don't ever fucking call me again, mother bitch. Do I need to say mother bitch again? Mother bitch. I love that. In the English way, fuck off, But honestly, I mean, it's ridiculous, and that's why women are. I think a lot of the weight gain from women is, my belief is, cortisol. It's stress, and it's not because women don't move around and do things. It's stress and not having enough time for you, and it's an unfair burden. Like when you have to pee and you're holding your kid in your knee and they're freaking out, screaming and crying, like that creates stress. Even if you try not to think about it, they're like,
but you're trying to think of everything for everybody to make sure the house still runs smoothly, and it's stressful.
Perfect example. Perfectly clean the house, and the husband's like, where's the bottles? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been cleaning for the past 6 hours. I want to sit down and have some coffee because my back is broken. And he's like, where's the bottles? I'm like, I don't know, they're in the sink, and there wasn't any washed. And I keep in mind, I'm always doing the dishes and the laundry. I fold his laundry and put away like a good little 1950s wifey, okay? And then he's like, where's the ball? I was like, I don't know. And he's all mad because there's no balls up here. I'm like, I don't know, go in the sink. There's no clean ones. And I'm like, you know what, bitch? Clean a bottle. It's a bottle. It's this big. Clean it. Anyways, he's like, well, you always clean the bottles. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do if I get hit by a car by tomorrow? Everyone, I said this to my kid all the time. Like, I'm not your maid. You see that hook? You have hands. Boop.
Yeah.
I do nice
Yeah.
mommy for him all the time. But there's days where I'm like, don't you throw that jacket on the floor. There's a hook right there. I'd always say to them, listen, help me help you. You want us to have quality time, mommy needs a workout. In order for mommy to have a workout and not be cranky and need mommy tomorrow, that means you have to help mommy put away your toys. And then we can have a party. I always tell them everything's a party. And then, like, which is just something fun we'll do together. And it's like, yeah. And I'm like, don't be a bad boy, lazy boy. Be a good future husband type thing, right? I'm like, are you a good future husband? He's like, yeah. And it's so funny when he says, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. So good husbands clean up toys. He's like, yeah. It's so hilarious. That's the psychology. Like, do you want mommy to be nice to you? Mommy needs to eat food and have a nap. And I do that all the time. Like, here's your tablet. I need a nap so I can work out tonight. I'll see you in 45 minutes. Let me know if you need anything. And that year's on, like you said, don't worry, people. I'm not neglecting. I'm making sure he's okay. But I wanted to talk about, before you go, lastly, like specific methods of training, specific exercises and workouts that you do with women, you know, who have injuries. And if you want to dive into, before you touch on that, like how you recovered your body, what you do that kind of keeps those muscles strong that were affected by a car accident and prevents them from kind of like debilitating or falling apart or whatever. You know what I mean? Like keeping you balanced and not all banged up.
I mean, that's the key, I think, is to regain, or as much as you can regain, the balance. So I had to do a lot of unilateral exercises. I had to do a lot of single arm stuff to get the recovering arm to catch up again. So yeah, I mean, like I focus a lot with my ladies on like barbell training, so they'll do a lot of compound lifts and stuff. But if they've got an issue like that, so I've got one lady who has a shoulder issue, so we have to make sure that we work with that. So if we're doing anything individual, if her left side's her weaker side, if we're doing say Arnold presses or side like lateral raises or anything like that, we'll always start with what her weaker arm can do. So a lot of people make the mistake of, oh yeah, their stronger arm or their stronger leg can do 12 reps. Do 12 reps, but then your weaker side could only do 6. Well, then your weaker side's never going to get stronger again. It's going to stay behind all the time. So you have to go with what the weaker side can do. Yeah, you've got to focus on it. You've got to do individual work for it. You've got to do you know, so yeah, so if your weaker side can do 6 reps, that's where you start. Even if that's easy for your stronger side, you've got to start there. Because if you constantly do barbell work instead of using dumbbells, your weaker your stronger side will always take over. So you know, you basically have to just focus on the weaker side. Still do other stuff, so still do barbell stuff, still do compound movements so that you can build your overall strength still. But yeah, you've got to do the work. You've got to do, be it with resistance bands, be it with dumbbells, if it takes you a bit longer to warm up. So, you know, with some clients, we have to spend a lot more time stretching.
My warm up takes like 45 minutes because I do like foam roller every time because my back is broken from these children. And I do tons of flexibility stretches in my yoga poses and basically PNF stretches, which is like gymnastics and yoga, right? Like repeating that flow with through pulses. And it's not to build muscles, literally just to like get everything loose. Like my kids are sick for 3 weeks and I feel like, you know what I mean? Because I just not even just doing the stretching stuff. I'm like, everything's tight and it hurts. Continue, but I'm just saying, like the dumbbells and the kettlebells, like you have to be willing to accept not feel like the cool kid. And like training in weaknesses or training small things, and we talked about this in the last episode,
it's essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you want to be doing the big things, you want to be doing the foot, like, oh, that looks really fun, but you've got to do the little things first. You know, you want to be able to do the big things, you've got to do the little things to get there. You know, so it's you've got to work within your limitations. You know, it's no good trying to push hard all the time if you're not taking care of the little niggles and the little issues. You've got to address those things first to be able to move on. Yeah. So yeah, it's managing expectation as well, some of it. Like, you know, obviously if people have got injuries or issues, you know, you've got to walk before you can run.
So prescribe me some workouts, my friend. I'm gonna be your little case scenario experiment. Hamster time. So if I came to you and I was like, "Excuse me, Miss Diaz, um, I need your assistance on how to become as fabulous as you. I am broken, my hips hurt, and I am crooked, and I don't have balance. Okay, every time I squat with that barbell, I feel like I'm gonna fall down backwards, and every time I deadlift, I feel like I'm gonna fall forwards. I just feel like I'm falling all the time. And with the bench press, I wear things stuck on my chest. I don't know what to do. I can lift it, but my balance feels off. What are some things I can do in the gym at home? Go.
Okay, so if balance is a big issue, one of my favorite toys is like a half balance ball. So it's squishy, soft, like the big yoga balls, but they're half ones.
Yes.
So you've got half
Yes.
yoga ball and then a flat surface. They have different
Yes.
names. So I love that piece of equipment because it's unstable. So squats on that are brilliant for all your little stabilizing muscles and your core. So if your balance is crap, your core is probably crap. So you need to be working on things for that, but I don't just mean abs. Like, so many people think, oh, but I do loads of sit-ups. Yeah, no, that's not your core. That's literally just the superficial bits on the top. So I do a lot of plank work, different plank variations, things like dead bugs and bird dogs, and I love suitcase carries are another one, which is a great unilateral exercise which will work your core. It makes you stay straight. So I mean, I don't mean go super heavy so that you're really struggling, but you have to so kettlebell is really good for that. So if you've got a 12-16 kilo kettlebell and you've got to carry that and you've got to keep yourself straight. So these are all little exercises I do with my clients for that kind of thing. If your hips are a problem, that I would say really stretches. So I'd look at different kind of stretches, what works for you. Things like pigeon
Channel your
stretch.
Nocto Libre in your George Costanza. Get into the flow. Get ridiculous. Yes. And hips, like stretch the shit out of your hips. I cannot say that enough. And then squeeze in.
Yeah, and glute work as well. I mean, a lot of people neglect, like they think your glutes are all about having a peachy bum. Well, yeah, that's great, but they actually have a really, really important function in your posture and your lifting, and your core. Like they help support your core. If your glutes are weak, your lifts are going to be shit. So do your glute bridges, do your Romanian deadlifts and stuff as well.
Yes.
Make sure you're engaging your glutes. So they're all things that work on as a basic level.
Facts. So if you want more fantastic tips, you can get in touch with Maria. How do they get in touch with you? What's your IG, website, TikTok, all that? How do they message you?
So I'm old and I'll admit it, I don't do TikTok. And I don't have.
I'll pray for you. Don't worry. Praying for you.
I just don't have enough time to go down that rabbit hole yet. Just I have enough trouble keeping up with my social media.
Rabbit hole. It's a party.
But Instagram is probably the best way to get a hold of me. So yeah, it's just at Maria Flump.
Listen, you'd be so popular with that candy ass, and because you the flump with the bump, you know what I'm saying? Boom, chicka boom, right there. There's your custom merch right there. So if you want, on the topic of merch, if you want to get hooked up with the hottest Panda Strong merch for the ultimate gear and gym inspired lifestyle items for your home, we do custom. Okay, I design things with your image. So if you're a strength athlete, send me some selfies of you kicking ass, and I can turn it into an amazing design. Like Maria, I will send her something that says candy ass on it. She'll love it. Check it out, pandastrong.ca, and search our store and slide into those messenger DMs with your custom order request. There ain't no limits. I mean, there's some limits because I got kids, but mostly no limits. Strong man. And there's we got a full. Yeah. I like when it's hilarious and ridiculous. So, for example, we have new stuff on our stores that says hitches are for bitches because one of our elite athletes is a powerlifter. But then because I'm a strong man, I made a contradictory shirt that says hitch bitch because I'm all about that hitching. So there's a lot of confusing slang on the store. You'll love it. Just basic shit talking, all your shit talking dreams are finally coming true. You can wear it everywhere. And except for your nans, though. Your nans might get a bit mad. But yeah, you want to jam out to those sickest beats. Like I said, follow our Spotify playlist. Just look up Panda Strong, you'll find them. Thanks again for being on our show. You were fantastic.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, one more last question, though. Because you have a candy ass. I love you. It's your fault. You told me that you can lie. Are you single? Because there might be some men who like that.
I am not. I'm actually I'm in a 5-year relationship and we recently got engaged. So
I'm so happy for you. He better treat you right. Or I'm gonna fly over there and smack him around. Or just call up Eddie. Eddie will take care of him. Don't worry. Actually, call up Brianna and she'll fuck him up real good. Right hook. She'll be really mad. She'll be like, why are you telling people on your podcast, Stephanie, that I punched people in the face? I'm just saying she has not, probably will not punch anyone in the face. Okay, she's a lovely, amazing athlete. I love you, Rhiannon.
She is lovely. She is lovely. She's just, yeah.
She's got a heart of gold. Like, she's a really good human. Like, I absolutely love her.
Big
for
time.
Sure. It's definitely one of my inspirations for being in the sport, and especially because she's so tiny. I was like, okay, I got it. Anytime someone is stronger than me is smaller, I'm like, fuck. And that's all it is. It's just fuck. And then I go to the gym. Other strong, thick people do not inspire me. It's the skinny little fuckers. And I'm like, you go to competition, you're like, what the fuck is this? And then the guy comes up and the girl, and they're like, that's my first competition. I'm like, fuck, it is. Who's your coach? So you're going to go back and Rianne. But anyways, if you want to get hooked up with her, she's got you. She has experience and she works with the best, right? So get in contact with her and tune in for our next episode 2 weeks from now. Give us a 5-star if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Please like and share this video and comment because we love you, pandas. Turn it out. Dance time. So I know you got to go on.